Hey everybody, it's the Alarm Doctor again. Today's video is on 10-inch chain wind gongs built by the Gamewell Company. So I'm sure your first question is, well, why are you showing an old style center wind turtle gong? Well, the reason I wanted to show you this was just basically the workmanship and what the old gongs were made of. As you can see, all of the parts in this gong are either cast brass or cast iron, and machine work done to them. So I just wanted to show you that just so you can compare this to the chain wind gong, which we're about to move to now. Okay, here's a Gamewell 10-inch chain wind turtle gong. Now these were built or began being built in 1948, and the reason I know that is I have a copy of the submissive report to the Underwriters Laboratories by the National Board of Fire Underwriters for them to approve this new bell that they've designed. So it has some factory photos in it which are really nice. It lists all the components, what they're made of, how they work, etc. And here is a good picture of the mechanism with the cover, the frame on, and with the frame off. So anyways, like I say, this was submitted February 25th, 1948. So I'm sure that these bells went on sale to the municipalities, etc., and they put it in their catalog mid to late 1948. So one of the things I wanted to compare here is, as you can see now, and I'll show you when we get to the inside of it, the only part that is cast on this new bell is the hammer. That's it. Everything else is either stamped steel, stamped aluminum, or machine steel or machine aluminum. Now the hammers are held on by either a taper pin or a roll pin, depending on the vintage of it. So if it's a taper pin, you have to drive them up from the bottom. If it's a roll pin, it doesn't matter which way you drive it out. Also, once you get that off, there are 3 screws here that hold this stamped cover on. So we're going to take it off and look at the inside. Okay, here again you can see this is stamped steel. No more casting. Here's the front plate. Here is the coil. Now in these bells you only have 1 coil, no longer 2. The operating system itself is basically the same as the old ones. Underneath it here you have a hammer paw, a catch paw, you have your armature lever here and your single stroke lever, and here's the main spring and here's the main gear. But now here again, as I said before, the main gear is no longer cast and machined. This is stamped. None of the levers are cast, they're all stamped. Also, as you can see, all these pieces and parts, they're all stamped. So one of the things I wanted to bring up about these bells is they have a tendency to have a broken mainspring. Now, you can't see it here, but I can show you on this brand new spring here. If you can see it right here, there is a 90-degree bend on the end of that spring. Now that's the only thing that holds the spring to the main shaft. It's not like the old days when they had a slot cut in the end of the spring and you had a screw on the main shaft. It's now a very small 90-degree bend. So they are very, very easy to break. And that's usually what happens to 10-inch turtle gongs, these chain wind gongs, is that center breaks out of the spring. And of course you have the same problems as you do with the the older style center wind gongs, and when you have a catastrophic failure like that and the spring flies out, it tends to bend stuff up. So one of the things I wanted to point out, especially to collectors, is this screw right here. This is a spring overwind adjustment. The more you run this spring in, the more you can wind the main spring up. Now, just a suggestion, if you are a collector and you are using this in your display, there's a good chance that this bell is 50 years or more old. So if it was me, I would take this jam nut loose and I would back this screw out. Now you might have to play with it a little bit, but I would back it out a good ½ inch or so. That way the stop, the overwind stop will hit this pin, which is what stops you from overwinding it, sooner. Less tension on the center of the spring, less chance that you will bust that 90-degree bend off of the end of that spring. A couple other things I wanted to point out, especially you'll see how this winds. When you pull the chain down, you see how this cam kicks in right here. A lot of times these won't wind. It just pulls, and here I can demonstrate that by flipping this spring over here. See, you get nothing. It doesn't feel like there's any tension or anything on it. 90% of the time, either this has happened, or flip this back over, this spring right here is broken, because you can definitely feel the tension if it's winding, and you can hear it click. A couple other things, there's a lot of little springs on these. There's a spring here, there's a spring over here, there's a small spring here. If I turn this up on its side, there's a small spring in here. Basically, all the operation, as I said before, is the same as the old ones. You've got this little flat spring here, you've got this paw here, the hammer paw, you've got the catch paw underneath, and as you can see from this one, it's been repaired. This snapped off, this has been brazed back on. My opinion, and of course it is my opinion, these are nowhere near as reliable as the old bells were. What else can I point out here that you can look for if you're at a flea market? Of course it has to have the chain on it to wind it. These posts right here that go to the back plate, there are 2 different thread sizes for those. So if you would happen to buy a bell that doesn't have a back plate and you're out there looking for one, basically the posts are the same size, it's just that the nuts are different, a different thread. So if you get one and there's no nuts here, you got to be careful about which size the nuts you get that go down on to these shafts. One other thing I wanted to point out, I'll see how easy this comes apart here. Okay, this is the back plate. As you can see, it's marked top. This is the only one that, you know, rule was always the terminals had to be at the top. Well, this is a little bit different. As you can see, this terminal block is at about the 2 o'clock position. So, try to buy a bell that has this mounting plate with it. Can you use the bell without it? Yes, you can. Is it a pain in the neck? Yes, it is. The rule to remember then is, first off, to use it without it, you have to take this off, this terminal block out, and you'll have to hardwire it. The other thing is to remember then that the chain, the winding chain, has to be at 6 o'clock. So that's basically, in a nutshell, the 10-inch chain wind gong. As I said before, I don't think they're as good as the older chain or center wind gongs. Yeah, there's a lot of workmanship here. I don't really care for the materials, etc., etc. Of course, that's my opinion. And of course, you know how opinions go. They're like assholes. Everybody has one and they all stink. So anyway, there were a couple of different bowls that you could get with these. The early ones were brass, and most of them were nickel plated. Then they went to steel, painted steel, and chrome steel. And then the very late versions, the bowl was aluminum. And there was a couple of different mounting nuts. Some were rather large size. There was some that there's actually a stud that sticks up through and a nut goes on top. You know, there's a couple of different variations there. So your best bet on these is to try to find one that's complete with the mount. You try to piece and part them. Sometimes it doesn't work out so well. Are they repairable if they're broken? If you buy one that's broken, yes, they are repairable. Yes, they're a pain in the neck to repair, but you know, I do it all the time. So but anyways, that's the lowdown on the 10-inch chain wind gong. This video is a little short, but there's not a whole lot to say about these. So again, look for one that's complete. One other thing I did want to point out, now that I think about it, is if you happen to get a gong and you get it mounted up on the wall, and let me see if I can release this one first without causing a major problem. Okay. And the hammer, yep, that was hooked up. The hammer is hanging down like this. And you put it up on the wall and you say, oh, it doesn't work, I can't get it to work. I wind it and it doesn't work. A lot of times it has to be reset, which that one just didn't happen to do by itself. You have to lift the hammer up till it clicks and stops, so that it's about that position right there. So again, that's this one is from the Gamewell company, which is the original company. You'll find them with Gamewell bliss tags on them, and I believe you'll find them with Gamewell Western Electric tags on them. I'm guessing that these were probably made into the mid 1970s before they discontinued making gongs altogether. So until the next time, this is the Alarm Doctor saying so long for now.